And we are live with a book and a beverage, and we have the one, the only, the multi-award winning author that is Hayley Reese Chow. Hayley, how are you doing today?
I'm so great. How are you doing, Mike?
Wow,
living the dream.
That's very peppy for this show.
Yeah, we're a couple of grumpy old men, so
Yeah, right.
The contrast will be great for you.
Well, I have to keep you on your toes. That's obviously why I'm here. So I'm ready.
Well,
So before we get started, can I just to remind our audience, our next show will be Saturday at noon. We're going to be interviewing Thea Lyons, a Brit author, so hence noon on Saturdays. And then next Thursday, we're going to talk to AJ Calvin, and we have no show on Tuesday next week. So there you go. Like and subscribe, because we never say that. We always forget. So now my part is done. Ro, take over.
I'm typing, man. Can't do two things at once.
Okay, so Hayley, as I mentioned before we got on to air, you're an overachiever who's an ultra marathoner. You're a triathlete. You're a mother of two gremlins. And you were in the Air Force, and you're now a reserve. You've written 8 books, 6 books and 2 novellas, and you've won any number of awards for your writing.
Yeah, what's up with this awards thing?
I know.
We don't have award winners on this show. What awards did you win?
By osmosis, maybe we'll get one, Ro.
You enter, and sometimes it happens. You just know. So the big one was the Florida Indie Author Book Award, which is a really cool award. I definitely competition. I definitely think everybody should enter because it's free. It's totally free to enter. Different states run it, and what's cool about it too is that even if you don't win, they have cash. There's cash prizes. So if you win, you get a cash prize, and then you also they list your book in the library journal under like the indie author, the indie author winners. And even if you don't win, your book may still go onto BiblioBoard, which allows libraries to buy it for their ebook shelves. So it's awesome.
And what's the contest called?
I do believe it's called the Indie Author Project.
The Author Project. All right.
Yes, that's my number one. That's my number one recommendation. I have other recommendations. I mean, the Book Blogger Novel of the Year contest, that's also another great one because they do such a great job of promoting their winners, their semifinalists, their finalists, and their winners. So one of my books came in 5th place, and then they have all these book tours, and there's also good prizes at the end. So that one's really cool too. So those are kind of my top 2 that I recommend.
And you may destroy a theory that I've had. Do you go to like Comic-Cons and stuff and set up tables and sell your books?
I do not.
Good. That's good. Because my theory is that there are no triathletes at Comic-Cons. if you're a triathlete and you do go to one, that kills my theory. So that's excellent.
Well, now I have to go. We actually have Pensacon in Pensacola, which isn't.
Now I need to go just to ruin Ro's life. Thanks. Appreciate that.
I mean, the opportunity is presenting itself.
What's your favorite part of the try?
Oh my gosh, the running. Because I am such a slow swimmer. So I actually love how the try is set up because I'm the slowest swimmer ever. So I'm like the last person to get out of the water. And then I just progressively catch people. And so it's
faster as you go.
Yeah. So then at the end when I'm running, I feel awesome, even though I'm still like in the back. So it's great.
So the swimming part then is mostly just about living through the experience and
yes.
You're not drowning.
Please
and then
don't
after that, it's all good.
Yeah, actually, when I signed up, I did a half Ironman. That's the highest. That's the longest one I've done. And I specifically signed up for the one with the easiest swim. And I was freaking out at the starting line. I was like, I'm gonna drown. And the person was like, a bag of chips could float down this river in the amount of time that you need to do it in. And I was like, you know what? I can be the bag of chips. So I was.
It's all right. Yeah. Then if you're the last one out, then you're not banging into people and all that kind of thing. So yeah.
Has its perks.
That's a good plan. Good plan.
Now I'm going to have to do one of those so that I can be the last person because I will be the bag of chips. It doesn't get out.
You let me know when you're going to do that. I will travel to wherever that race is, and I will man your transition station.
As long as you're the bag of chips that finishes, that's all that matters.
I will hand you a bag of chips when you're done.
Okay. But you have several days to finish this, right?
No.
Oh, well, then never mind. And can I use my car? Anyway. So tell us about your books. Do you have them handy to show us?
I do. I came
Oh,
prepared. So
you are prepared. Good, good, good.
my first books, so my first series was self-published back in 2020 is when I published the first one, and then the last one came out in 2023. And it's a young adult epic fantasy. It's on the darker side. It's a 5-book series. 2 of them are novellas. And actually, each one can stand alone. So it's called my Odril's Air series, and it's basically about like a trio of chosen one across several generations. It spans about 30 years. That's why each one stands alone. Each one focuses on a different heir or chosen one with a different ability throughout the generation and how they're dealing with this undead necromancer kind of threat. It's kind of more of a classic good and evil kind of take with a side of slow burn romance and a very kind of fast paced. But the dark, it does get dark. I usually say PG-13 for violence, and it comes with a snarky cat. So that's the Odril's Air series.
Oh, you mean a cat?
Oh yes, there
Yeah.
there is a cat.
Snarky is just that's redundant when you're talking about cats, I think there.
I mean, it really is. Shadmandar, yeah. I mean, he's a fixture of the series. He's kind of my mascot. So
yeah. How many pages are those books on average?
They're not very long. So these
you can
are
read them, Mike. They're not very long. You're good.
Excellent. Wonderful.
Mike won't read anything over 500 pages, Hayley. It's
I love short books. I'm a short book person myself. So these are about 180 pages, like 75,000 words.
Beautiful.
I call them young adult sized, and most of the ebooks can be found for free somewhere. So that's kind of how that goes.
Excellent. See, you're very smart.
You are kind of continuing this odd, and I think this is my fault for Mike doing the scheduling here. You are kind of continuing this run of what I am going to call smart people who are also writers, in that you have a degree in mechanical engineering. And so you're not the typical person like me whose degrees have an A at the end of them as opposed to an S. So how did you get into writing fantasy from working in the Air Force and in mechanical engineering?
Well, engineering is kind of the family business in a way. My dad's an engineer, and I have 3 sisters. They're all engineers. And so by the time I came around, it was like, hello, you will be an engineer and you will get a scholarship to go to school and you will become an engineer in the Air Force as well. So that path was laid out for me. I was totally cool with it. But actually, my dad he's been super inspiring to me throughout my life, because he was a pilot in the Air Force. However, he always made time to pursue his passions. So he actually was also a published sci-fi short story author, and he's done like a comic strip, and he was like programming his own app games. So like he's just done a lot of the things that he loves, and which has always been really cool. And so when I got out of college and I had some time on my hands when I was waiting to go active duty, and I actually didn't know what to do. Like I'd been so busy in college, right? I had been like ROTC, and I was doing engineering, and I was an athlete. And then finally I had all this time on my hands, and I was like, Dad, what do I do? And he actually was like, why don't you try to create something? And then that was basically it. Once I decided that I would try, I just fell in love with it, and I didn't really look back. Because I even remember in high school and college, sometimes I would be like, oh wow, wouldn't that be cool to write a book? And people would say, well, you can. I'd be like, no, I can't. I can't. So once I kind of had that idea that maybe I could, it just kind of took off.
I have to ask, just out of curiosity, what did your dad fly?
He was an F-15 guy.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I thought you were going to say like a P-52 guy or something, and then I would say, well, he had lots of time up there then just to kind of think about things like that. But if he was flying a little pointy plane, probably not so much.
Well, his short story that got published, and I forget the publication, I should remember, but it was about an F-15 pilot battling a dragon, like in the middle of like Alaskan airspace. So definitely a subject matter expert there.
All right. So when was your most recent book published?
My most recent books. Okay, so now we're getting into my kind of ongoing series that I have right now is called Into the Churn. It's a sci-fi kind of the premise is they're on a backwater planet, and she's a terraforming intern, and they have to enter into this race to kind of save the planet. And so my last book that was published was Into the Fire, which came out in May. And then we also have a bridge novella, A Turn in the Dark, which is coming out in November. And then the last book 3 in that series will come out in March. So that's kind of what's going on right now.
And for that one, you were traditionally published for the sci-fi?
Yes, that's correct. So I was published through Whimsical Publishing, which is a small traditional Canadian publisher.
Nice.
You're down in Florida, but you somehow connected with a Canadian publisher?
That is correct. Through the power of the internet, all things are possible.
Okay, fair enough. So do you still have, are you still using that publisher now for your next book?
So they have my Into the Churn series, and then I'm also talking to them about the next year, a follow-on series that's not at all related, that we're kind of in the planning stages for right now. But I also have separate books that I also write that are with my agent on submission. So I got lots of irons in the fire and just trying to see what comes out.
So walk us through then. John says you need a bookshelf in your background.
I really do. I do.
Walk us through the process you took, or what the decision process was for saying, well, I could do this as an indie, or I can use a publisher, or I can do an agent, or I could just be difficult and do all three.
Absolutely. I will always choose the difficult option. That's, first of all, that's
all of the above.
Yes.
That's ever an option on the test, kids. That's the answer. So
you're at least partially right.
So with my first book, so I did query Odril's Heirs just because I didn't even know self-publishing was a thing. I really didn't know anything about it when I started. I was just kind of, my dad actually was like, here's the writer's market, off you go. And I was like, okay, I guess this is where I write my query letter and send it out to agents. And so I tried that, and I actually really got some really good feedback. And by feedback, I mean, like, I liked it, but not enough to love it. Or, like, not enough, the usual feedback that they give, which is like,
you got feedback, though, instead of just stony silence. So that's a plus.
This was back in 2019. So I think it was a different world back before the pandemic, to be fair. So, but I did get some feedback, and it was like, hey, I really liked it, but I don't see anything. I don't think it's unique enough to pitch or whatever. So at that point, I was thinking, I would only ever publish one book. I didn't even think that. I was like, maybe I'll just put this book out in the world and just move on with my life. And I was also thinking, I've been querying I think I queried it for maybe 2 years off and on. And I was like, at this rate, I don't think I'm ever going to get an agent. And wouldn't that be sad if I wrote this book and it didn't go anywhere? So at that point, I was in the writing community, and people were like, oh, why don't you just self-publish? So then I had to like deep dive into that, right, to figure out how all of those bazillion things work. And that turned out to be really fulfilling, though. I mean, connecting with readers and the awards and all that stuff really gave me a lot of confidence, I think, that I needed to continue to write. So I continued to write that series, and I published actually a middle grade as well. And then as I was continuing, I still was like, I would like to grow my audience. I mean, that's my number one goal as an author, is just to expand my audience, is to get these books out to who's going to enjoy them. And that's it. That's the tweet. That's the whole thing. So I was like, if I want to grow my audience, I like to think that I'm my books are good, but I don't think I'm really good at the marketing side of it. I think that the best indie authors are brilliant. Or I shouldn't say the best. I should say the most successful, right? Are brilliant marketers, right? The brilliant marketers getting their books out into the world. And that's not me.
You have just touched on 99% of indie authors, right? It's like, yeah, we know we have to do the marketing. It sucks. I hate it. I either won't do it, or I will attempt to do it in a half-assed manner. And, young Michael here, just a year and a half ago was, who Statler and Waldorf are?
It sounds
the two old
familiar.
guys that sit up in the balcony of the Muppet Show.
Oh yes, the original Trolls. Yep, I got it.
Yeah, the original Trolls. Excellent. That was Mike. And he would have nothing to do with this new fangled social media, get off my lawn kind of thing. And now, look at him now.
Look at you now. How far
Have
we
sales,
come.
have sales increased? Not really.
He's got 1,500 plus followers on Twitter. He's doing crazy things now. And it's part of the thing that nobody likes, but you have to do, or just, keep doing it for yourself.
Absolutely. They are separate skill sets. And I really remember one of the best advice that I think I got from a fellow indie author was don't be afraid to be your biggest fan. And I think that was so freeing to me as well. And, but yes, so that was really great. But like I said, I was trying to expand my audience. And so I wanted to try to do a small publisher, because actually I started to query this book, the Into the Churn book, with agents, and got zero feedback on anything. Like I wasn't getting any full requests. I wasn't getting any feedback. The only feedback that I got informally was that sci-fi doesn't sell, and that the market isn't into sci-fi right now. And so I was like, okay, let me just go cry for a second, and then we'll figure out something else. And
had 5 series and 8 movies, and Star Wars has sci-fi, and Dune, sci-fi's rubbish.
The Expanse. Who's heard of that?
Right. Oh my god! Right. It just doesn't compute. But so then I just happened to. So I started reaching out to small publishers, and that's when I just happened to run into Whimsical Publishing. They were a new publisher at the time. They'd only published a couple books, and they fell in love with it. And so that was how my relationship with them started, and that's been really great. And a year later, I was once again still writing. I write at a pretty fast pace, like 2 or 3 books a year. So, and Whimsical Publishing only publishes about 4 books a year. So I needed another essentially publisher for books. So I kept trying agents. I kept trying that route, and I just happened last summer. One of my books got picked up.
So when looking for agents, what was your process there? I mean, are you just cold calling them? Are you sending them letters, emails? What?
Mm-hmm. So
who's interested in doing that? What was your plan of attack on that?
Yes. So the query manager, query tracker, that's what it is. Query tracker is like the name. Like for me, that's the name of the game. I never got I never got a paid account. It was always free. But through query tracker, you can see kind of which agents are open for submission for queries, and then you can also sort by genre. So that's a huge help. So sort by fantasy, and then you're clicking through and seeing who is really a good fit. And then the other thing that's not as big of a thing right now, but is pitch contests on Twitter. Of course, since Twitter has changed, that's kind of been up in the air. I knew there was a pitch contest actually like a couple weeks ago. You Deserve Pitt. It was great. And which agents were participating in. And that's actually indirectly what got me my agent. Last summer was hashtag Love Pitt was going on, and I wrote a YA rom-com, and an agent liked it, and I sent them, when an agent likes it, it is not like your golden ticket. I have participated in many pitch contests. I have gotten probably an agent like in almost every single one, and it almost never pans out. Like it's pretty much just like an invitation to query, hey, I would be interested in this. In this case, they requested my thing, and they were back with me in a week. They offered, and then I had already had a bunch of other queries out, because for me, like, some people will send out 5 queries, wait for feedback, and then they'll revise their query in their first 5 pages. That's not me. I am sending them out to everybody. We're sending them out, and then we are moving on. So
we only have a life expectancy of like 75. We can't be doing it that way.
That's right, Ro. That's right. So then I basically had to alert all of the other agents that I queried that I had an offer. And actually, an alarming amount of them, alarming because it just wasn't ready for it, requested the full and said that, and so then I ended up having 3 offers and I got to choose between agents, which was really cool. So that's kind of how that all went down. But yes, so query tracker, pitch contests, and then there are also a lot of, like, if you're looking to do that as well, 100%, there's a lot of mentoring opportunities out there. There used to be, of course, pitch. I'm not going to remember it now. Mentor pitch mentor. It's going to come to me. But they also have like writer mentor match. And then the Write Hive has a free mentoring thing. And there are editors and established authors, both traditional and publishing, that can also help guide writers that are looking to query either small publishers or agents. That was a lot of words.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Nobody tunes into this to hear Mike and I talk. It's true. Anything we've got to say that might be remotely useful was used up in the first 15 minutes of this podcast a year ago.
No, I don't believe that for a second.
Okay. Hey, this is totally off the subject, but I did not. I just don't. It really is, Mike. When did you go to Maxwell after your sophomore year? What year was that?
This is all seeming very familiar now. So I went to Maxwell for field training in 2009.
You remember what flight you were in?
Yeah.
I was a flight training officer there.
I was in the flight that was singing Fresh Prince.
You don't remember the letter?
We had I not right now, but if I thought through it, maybe I could. But we were the flight that was, we had one of our cadets came up with a field training flavored song of the Fresh Prince.
Yeah, that was our flight. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say you would probably remember if we were the Fresh Prince flight, because we were singing it to every other flight on command, and it was a whole thing.
So, to anybody who's wondering what the hell it is we're talking about,
yes.
So when you go to ROTC for the Air Force after your sophomore year, you go down to Maxwell Air Force Base in beautiful Montgomery, Alabama, where you spend a month basically doing push-ups and being yelled at. And that's what you have to do to commission after you graduate. Well, ROTC instructors get to go down and do the yelling and stuff, right? So at the time that Hayley was down there being yelled at, I was there yelling. So very different points in our career.
That would have been hilarious, by the way.
That really would have. I was kind of hoping it's like, oh, please, that would be perfect. But we same time. So anyway, all right. That's all I had, Mike. I just wanted to go down that weird rabbit trail.
Okay. Well, I have questions, believe it or not.
I believe it. You go.
And they're actually good ones for a change.
Come on now.
So talk to me about sci-fi versus fantasy. Is one easier to write than the other?
In a short word, no. I don't think one is easier, but it did require a huge brain shift, and I think it matters how much science is in your science fiction. Because there's a whole difference between Andy Weir, right, and Hail Mary and Star Wars.
Yeah,
those are two completely different kinds of science fiction. However, it did take a huge brain shift for me because I went from writing epic fantasy to science fiction. In a lot of ways, they are the same, right? The world building is just a different type of world. The language is a different type of language. However, it is funny. I was a little intimidated by science fiction because I love it so much. And I was thinking only smart people write science fiction. And I am not smart enough for that. I am not smart enough for the Andy Weir Hail Mary the science fiction.
I've never written science fiction, so yeah, that theory holds up.
But I have, so there you go. It does not hold up.
But in the end, I think it has to abide by the same rules, right? Whatever science that you have come up with has to logically make sense to the reader. In the same way that your magic system, whatever magic system that you have come up with, has to make sense to the reader. The language has to make sense in the world, and so I think once you kind of almost come to terms with the fact that science fiction and fantasy are so similar. I mean, that's kind of almost the key in itself, I think, to cracking that code.
And have all of your characters been young adults?
I have. So in my current published work, yes, they have all been around 17, 18, with the exception of my one middle grade where I had a 12-year-old boy. And then in the work that I've written but has yet to be published, I have dabbled in what I would like to call new adult, where the characters started at 18 and they end up at about 22. And I guess actually in my novella, even though I'd still classify this as young adult because it's written for that audience in the series, these characters are actually in their 20s.
So I was in a writing chat yesterday and I was talking to him. I was like, you know what? I didn't think about it, but when I wrote my sci-fi, my characters were 17, 18 years old. And I can write that dialogue just all day long, have no problem whatsoever. When I try to write with functioning adults who have real thoughts in their heads, it is so hard. And I don't know what this says about me.
I do.
I think it's your concept of an adult, right? You're, like, we're all adults, but I think, it's interesting that you say that, because even like going back and thinking about like Father of the Bride and how old like Steve Martin is in Father of the Bride, like he's supposed to be in his 40s, and you go back and you look at that and he's in like a tie and like this like suit in the living room, and you're kind of like, is that what an adult is supposed to be?
I was reading something the other day where they're saying Gen X isn't aging like previous generations, right? And this one woman on TikTok had a video, and she says she's found these photos of like her mothers or something. And there were like 4 women in the photo. And they said all those women were in their 40s, right? Or just 40, but they look so much older. So then she did an experiment and she gave herself the same hairdo that they had. And she went, yeah, we're all screwed. So it was all the hair.
So have you ever tried to enter Spiffbo?
I have. I've entered Spiffbo twice now, in fact.
And
with 0 success.
Oh, right. I've entered once, and I was the first person in my group to get cut. So there's that.
Yeah, actually, the first time I entered, I didn't get a review or anything, and I didn't know I was cut until they were like announcing at the very end that like that was already over, and they were announcing the finalists, and they were just like, oh, and this one's also out. Like I didn't even okay. Darn.
And have you looked into the self-pub science fiction contest, or Spacebo?
Yes. So I've heard of that going on, but since actually my sci-fis are traditionally published, that one's kind of close to me. But that is a cool, both of those, I love those contests. I think they're such a good idea. And anything, that's getting indie authors exposure, it's thumbs up for me.
So, okay, those are my questions, Ro. That was 3.
That was it? You had 1?
3. I asked fantasy versus sci-fi with a follow-up about young adult versus older people.
Good God, man.
Then
all right.
So,
Hayley, in addition to your time with the reserves, do you have another job, or do you get to spend most of your time writing?
I do have another job.
Okay. So you are a super overachiever. What's your day job?
I'm a program manager. Also for the Air Force as a civilian. So it's
right. You got one of those gigs. Nice.
I do. I have one of those. Yeah, it's a good time. I like, I like it.
All right. So, and you've got kids.
I do.
Yeah. 2?
I got 2 kids. They are 6 and 8 these days.
And you still write 3 books a year?
I do.
Okay. One of your weekends every month is taken up in uniform.
Wait. I'm tricky because I'm actually an IMA. So I'm an individual mobility augmentee. So it actually just takes the place of my normal work desk. So we get that weekend back.
Oh, all right. Okay. But still, you have 2 kids and a job and everything. You know better than us,
Oh, I know. I know better than
about the ultra marathon and the triathletes too,
right.
bro.
That's right. You're a play triathlete. And what was all that other stuff you were talking at the beginning, Mike? What?
Yeah, and she's won multiple awards for her writing.
Hold on a second.
I don't feel insignificant at all.
No,
I know, because like a triathlon is nothing that you just go out. Except for my neighbor, a few years ago, me and my next door neighbor decided to do a sprint tri.
Oh,
I
yeah.
say a few years ago. It was like 9 years ago. And we said, we're going to do a sprint triathlon, right? Because why not? You know, I can handle a 5K run. Well, I could then. And our neighbor across the street is probably 15, 20 years younger than us. And the Thursday before the event, we said, hey, man, we're going to do this thing. You want to go? And he's like, yeah, I'll join. He came in third.
Oh, my God.
And we finished.
That's
you know,
intense.
But my point in all that is that it isn't something that, aside from him, that you could just go do unless you're spending a fairly significant amount of time swimming so that you don't drown and, you know, running and biking so you don't, you know, expire on the road.
Mm.
So your writing time must be very efficient.
It is very efficient, and I've actually gotten a lot better at that as I've gone along. So, and also, so to be fair, I haven't done triathlons in a while. So, like, I triathlons and ultra marathons, and that was also like 5 or 6 years ago for me. I usually consider myself like an ex marathon or ex triathlon just because of the kids, right? Because I coach 2 soccer teams. Like, there is no time. There is no time.
Okay.
Me too. I'm an ex-marathoner. I just never started.
but efficiency, like writing efficiency, is huge, especially when you have a day job. And actually, reading Save the Cat, the craft book,
Yeah.
I completely changed how I write. It sped me up so much, because when I started, I wasn't really a plotter. You know, I was like one of those little plant stir people who had like a general idea of where we were going, and then we were just gonna get there. And I with Save the Cat.
Hold on one sec, Hayley. Did her audio go out for you, Mike?
Nope. No, it's
so you heard all of that?
Yep.
It's just me? Okay. Well, you don't need to repeat it if it was only me that missed it. So, okay.
So Save the Cat. Yes. So Save the Cat was great. Just because it cut so much down on my revision time. Basically, I was that plotting structure made so much sense for my writing style. I could basically already match it to the books I had written without it. I just totally resonated with me. And then also a zero draft also completely changed the way I write. Someone once was talking about their writing process and talked about how essentially the draft between their outline and their first draft, they called it a zero draft, and they just focused on dialogue. And essentially they wrote it like a screenplay. And that also completely changed. Like, that saves me so much time. So between those 2 steps, I'm extremely efficient in writing books. And someone once told me that writing is like 85% thought and 15% getting it on the page, right? So I also took that completely to heart, so that whenever I'm writing, I think about it. Like we all do all the time, daydreaming and such, thinking about what you're going to write. So I make sure that when I sit down to write, I know exactly what I'm going to write, and then I write, and then I type at 100 words per minute, right? I mean, I don't type that fast when I'm drafting, but that's what's possible. Right. So I try to strive towards that, especially when I'm drafting. And then also, oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to tell you, I combine my exercise time these days with my writing time. So I often have when I'm on the elliptical or on the treadmill, I often have my laptop in front of me with like a weight vest while I type. So that is how I also do those things.
You actually type while you're running?
Walking. No. Walking with the weight vest.
Still, it's okay. So I'm going to ask this. I think I know the answer based on what you said. Plotter or pantser?
Plotter, 100%, all the way now.
Yeah, I kind of figured that. Yeah.
It just cuts down my revision time so much. Like when I plot, before I was plotting it, sometimes I would change midway, and I have to go back and change things. And once it's plotted, now it's like it's kind of a smoother process for me.
Interesting.
Mike, you carry on.
Okay.
He's making me feel bad about myself.
No, that's no.
Oh, good. I'm just using you as an excuse.
So, what do you enjoy most about writing fiction?
Oh man, what do I enjoy most about? I enjoy. You know what? I actually just the other day I was thinking, someone asked me if I liked villains or heroes, and I love heroes. I love, I love being able to see people, and especially young adults, triumph right over situations that seem really bad. And actually, what I think is at the core theme of all of my books. One of my favorite quotes is by Albert Camus, and he says, "In the heart of winter, I found inside myself an invincible summer." And that, I think, is what is at the heart of all my books, is that no matter what adversity that you're going through, that you can find the strength to do it. And I think also that's what I loved so much about marathoning as well, was just the fact that you were capable of so much more than you ever thought that you could be. And I love taking all of those thoughts and putting it into a book to try to inspire that in the reader, right? And that feeling, in that fantastical way, in that science fiction way, like, let me take you to a new world and show you all these things that you could also do, or, expand the imagination. I think I just really love about fiction that we can explore, what it means to be human, what the possibility of being a human is, and just expand it and extrapolate it into every possible conceivable, place and time and happening. I think is amazing.
So counterpoint to that. So I was on a panel.
She just gave us easily probably the most profound 30 seconds we've ever had on this show in over a year. And you're going to jump right into counterpoint to that. I'm going to be a dick and say, go ahead, Mike.
It's my Waldorf moment, okay? So I was at a Comic-Con at a panel, and I write first-person present tense, and the author next to me also did. And he said, yeah, I had a person come up and go, yeah, I never read first-person present tense because, the main character has plot armor. They have to make it through or else the story ends. And he looked at him and said, challenge accepted. And he said he's written 8 books at that point, and 3 of them he killed his main character. And I thought, that is so cool. And let me tell you, it is awesome. I loved it. And I get people going, I can't believe you killed. And I'm like, it's glorious. And I revel in it because I am heat miser and cold miser wrapped in one.
Heat miser. Wow, there's a deep cut.
Oh my gosh. So, I have read that as well. I have read a book in which one of the main characters in first person present tense died. It was shocking. I was shocked.
But sometimes it's almost a good thing, right? I mean, depending on the book and the story and all that. I've mentioned this book several times here. Netflix made a series out of it. I've only got a couple of. It's called The Power. Have you read that?
No.
Basically, it's this society where females only come across this power, right? They all just kind of develop around the same time, this power that involves them to be able to manipulate electricity and basically like kill people with it, right? If they want. And how it changes the male-dominated kind of world that we live in, right? Because now women have actual power. And when you're reading the book, you're like, wow, this is really good. This should be a movie. Until you get about 3/4 of the way through it, where you realize they've written themselves into a corner and there's only one real way out. And you kind of hope they don't take it, but ultimately they do. And you can see it as they're writing the last, quarter of the book, that they don't know what to do, and they just said, fuck it. Right? And there was a point to all that, but I've forgotten what it was. Never mind. So
I think it can work for the book and the story, right? It just depends on how the author and the writer is doing it. I've also seen situations, right, where a series ended with the main character dying and people just about rioted.
Well, it depends on the character, right?
Right.
I mean, when Tony Stark died in the Avengers, that was fine. I mean, it was sad, right? But it's like, okay, that's kind of good in a way.
Yeah.
Because it would have been ridiculous not like it wasn't already, that all of them survived, right? So it was good that in the movie preceding that Black Widow died, right? And they didn't come back. There has to be a stakes involved in something.
Yeah, I think there has to be a meaning to it too. Like I also like in my books, especially my Odril's Air series, characters die and they don't come back, and it is a fine line walking between like our reader's gonna hate you, right?
You have a cat in your books, right?
Oh, I do. Yes.
I dare you.
No, I would never. That way leads darkness. There's also a dog. There's also a dog, and that way leads darkness. No,
so I've killed a dog in my book.
You killed a dog. Oh my gosh.
In my first series, I have a bobcat that can communicate with the main character. And as I was writing it, I said, well, what's the lifespan of a bobcat, right? And the lifespan of a bobcat is 7 to 10 years, roughly. Due to magic reasons, this bobcat lives significantly longer.
Excellent. We love that.
But not long enough to see the end of the series. And I didn't often get comments from people about it, but a guy I knew called me up and said, well, his wife actually did. It's like, you made Jeff cry. It's like, oh, that's awesome. That was so worth killing that character just for that.
See, we are Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah. I didn't murder it. It's like the thing out is like existed 3 times as long as a normal thing did. So
sometimes it has to happen. I mean, death is a part of life. I mean, that is if we're gonna get deep, like that's gonna be if your book goes on long enough, there's definitely have to deal with that.
Yeah, some like I always say, if it's a fantasy novel, with swords and magic, a fool's going to die, and it's just the way it is. So what are your inspirations for sci-fi?
I love me some. I mean, I love Red Rising. I love The Expanse. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. Talking about books, I love Cinder, which is like the Lunar Chronicles. I like the Illuminae files. So much, right? I like Andy Weir, The Martian. Love it. For me, like I said, even though I really do appreciate science-based science fiction novels, for me, I definitely go, most of my books are more character driven, relationship driven, especially writing for the young adult market. And it just happens, high stakes and action happen within the book, but less so on the science side, or even it has more of a flavor of what am I say, like Hunger Games meets like Skyward by Brandon Sanderson is kind of the vibe that I'm going for.
So as an Air Force officer and someone who likes Star Trek, favorite Star Trek captain?
Picard.
Picard?
Picard, hands down.
Least favorite Star Trek captain?
Kirk, bye.
You don't like Kirk? You don't like James Kirk?
I don't really like. Okay.
How?
James Kirk is okay. Because here's the real reason. Cards on the table. I have really only seen the first 2. I have really only seen Kirk and Picard. So for me, there was really only Kirk or Picard. Picard is my favorite and Kirk is not.
All right. Fair enough. Mike was all worried there.
Oh, yes. We could have gone into a whole nother tangent.
I wasn't going to. I was just going to ask the question. I wasn't going to go down any side roads like that.
Star Trek is amazing. I mean, I love Star Trek. I think does such an amazing job of balancing, first of all, light and like really heavy themes and really kind of light, and it balances those relationships with the crew. And it really talks about. I mean, it addresses social issues and like subtle in like ways that are so subtle. I'm sure some people don't even know what they're addressing sometimes. It's just incredible in this amazing fantasy world that we all want to live in. So. it's just chef's kiss. Love that.
And we owe it all to Lucille Ball.
And we owe it all to. Did she produce it or something?
They weren't going to produce the original series, and Lucille Ball and her husband Desi Arnaz, she heard about it. I don't remember the story entirely, but she had a production company, and I think it was largely because of her that it got made.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Cheers to her. Icon.
Oh. So we have silly questions. Is it time to enter the silly question room?
I'll give it a shot.
Okay. So I will roll the die. And 11. If you could have any mythical creature as a pet, which one would you choose and why?
I have so many follow-up questions. But I'm going to go with, let me think. Is there a healing animal? Is a phoenix, does that typically have healing powers for me, or is that just in itself?
It's your fantasy world.
Okay, well, I want...
Whatever you want. Go ahead. Go nuts.
We're just going to go with a knee-jerk reaction. I would like a dragon. Even though, I really don't, because I hate, crocodiles scare the crap out of me. So if you're talking about, a crocodile that flies, I probably don't actually want that. So we're wiping the table with that. Forget it. I actually want a unicorn.
A unicorn. What are you going to do to the unicorn, Mike?
Do what?
What are you going to do to the unicorn?
Me? Nothing. I don't have unicorns in my world.
Okay. What's the setup here?
This was just a random question. We did not do the bald dome. We can do the bald dome if you'd like.
Sorry, I was writing something and I think I just tune you out.
Oh, fair. I mean, that's probably the wise way to go. Or EL, who's must be writing again some very dark stuff.
It makes you better. That's pretty limited. I mean, it makes you better. Better what? Better speller?
Well, you can't trust what EL says.
If the blood of the phoenix is going to heal people, I want that.
Well, don't trust EL. I mean, he says some really out there things.
Why don't you put her character in one of your little things with a potion?
That's the bald dome. We will enter the bald dome.
Oh,
all right.
So you need to pick one of your fantasy characters.
Okay.
And then I'm going to roll a whole bunch of dice.
Okay.
Which means nothing because he's just going to pick what he wants anyway.
Shh, don't give up my secrets. So then I'm going to tell you where they are located because we want to know about your character, but we don't want to make you do spoilers.
Okay.
So we're going to put them in a totally different situation.
Okay.
And you'll get your choice. He can or she can get a regular item or a weapon. If they choose a regular item, they'll have to face a regular animal. If they choose a weapon, they will face a fantasy creature, and they can fight, run away, whatever your character would do. We basically want to know about your character in this situation. What would they do? And you're telling us the story.
Okay.
Oh, and there's a fizzy potion that you get that you don't know what it does, but if you drink it or if you throw it at the others, it's 100% will work, whatever it is, but you have no idea what it is.
Oh my. Okay.
What's your favorite color?
A blue.
So it's a blue fizzy potion.
Great.
Drop the die. Okay. So that's a 12. So your character, who's your character, by the way?
Does it have to be fantasy or can it be sci-fi?
Fantasy works best.
Okay. My character will be Kaya Dashel. She's the first character in my first Idril's Air book.
Okay, well, Kai is in a ruined battlefield haunted by ghosts of fallen warriors.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Okay, she has a blue fizzy potion.
Okay.
And the rules of your fantasy world are the rules of this.
Yes, they apply here. So now the choice is, does she want a regular item that may or may not be useful, or does she want a weapon? It matters in what she'll end up facing.
So it's haunted by the ghosts of the dead. Is that right?
Yes.
Hmm.
But that's not who she's facing off from. That's just added.
She has the power of fire, so I don't think that she would choose a weapon because she's considered armed. She would consider herself armed, so she'll go with the regular item.
Okay, so she gets a wagon wheel.
Oh.
instead of would have been a war pick.
Oh,
A war
So
pick? What the hell is a war pick?
yeah, it's
I'm
a
imagining a
pick.
railroad spike.
So with her wagon wheel, which was she is now facing number 5, which is a powerful grizzly bear
Ooh.
in this battlefield full of haunted warriors, or haunted battlefield full of warriors' ghosts. She has a blue fizzy potion, a wagon wheel, and there is a grizzly bear there as well. What happens? Tell us a story.
This is taken from a season of Alone that I just watched, man.
Hey, this is what ChatGPT gave me, okay?
All right, whatever.
So blame the algorithm.
So the blue fizzy potion does what again? Sorry,
You don't know.
we don't know.
You have to. You can drink it or throw it at the enemy. It will have the same effect on either, but you don't know what it is until you do it.
Got it. So Kaya actually, so she has the power of flame, but she's very has a very much like a moral code about what she uses it on, because it's supposed to be used on the undead. So she typically does not try to use it on the living if she can help it. She is versed in hand to hand and sword play. And I do not think she would want to kill the grizzly bear, as she's kind of more of a soft-hearted soul. But
Has she ever seen a grizzly bear?
she fights armies of the undead. I don't think after you do that, you're kind of like,
Yeah, Army of the Undead doesn't weigh 1,500 pounds with a paw the size of a basketball.
well,
So
I'm
what
like,
you're saying, she's distracted then on this battlefield full of ghosts then.
yeah, I think she would feel okay. I think she'd probably be rolling with it. She'd probably be like, no, this makes sense in the in my world, this is possible. But I think she would only act in self-defense against the grizzly bear. So I think we're gonna throw the potion at the grizzly bear in hopes that it's gonna do something. And if not, then we'll probably burn it to a crisp if it attacks. But we'll wait for that for the last moment.
I am so happy you did that. I rolled an 11, and 11 is potion of fire resistance.
No!
But she won't know that until she tries it.
That she won't know that until she tries it. So is the grizzly bear attacking?
Ro, you seem like a grizzly bear. What is the grizzly bear doing?
Well, I mean, you're talking about being in the bear's hungry, right? I mean,
Can't eat ghosts.
right, exactly. I mean, he's going to at least go up and check out what this thing is in his patch.
His ghost patch, because that sounds reasonable.
But there's one thing in there that isn't a ghost.
That is true. So what does Kai do? The bear approaches.
I think Kai would be taking a step back with the wagon wheel.
How fast can Kai run?
Very fast.
Can Kai run 35 miles an hour?
Probably not, but I think
No,
people
bear can.
have escaped. I think I'd be asking the ghost for help. I think I'd be saying, help me, fair ghosts that are here with said grizzly bear.
Form a ghost wall to distract it.
That's right. Like, can you help me with the bear situation? If not, we out.
Well, wait a minute. Doesn't Kai destroy ghosts?
On the undead. So I don't think her flames would I don't, unless the ghosts have a flame, some kind of flame weakness. I don't think that's probably something that she would think.
I'm just wondering why the ghost would want to help her.
You can just turn on the charm. Why? I mean, we don't know. The ghost motivation. We gotta ask. Why? What's going on?
Maybe the bear will be transfixed by the wagon wheel.
Yeah, we can spin it and kind of
roll the die. Anything under a 10.
A hypnotizing motion.
7.
Wow. You've got Yogi Bear is what you got. You luck out. Hey, Buddha, what's in the picnic basket?
Fantastic. We're now friends with the bear. It's coming with us on the journey.
There you go. And now you don't need a horse anymore. You can just ride the bear.
It can join our dog and our cat. Yeah, and our oh my gosh, we have like a deer. She has a deer thing that she rides. I'm blanking on what the name of it is specifically. But so yeah, we have the whole animal cast. We're ready for the bear to join.
Okay.
That's perfect. I think that was the most enjoyable outcome for one of these that I've heard yet, Mike. Because I can picture this girl sitting on this bear, pleased as punch, spinning her wagon wheel like a frisbee.
Playing fetch with the wagon wheel. The wagon wheel is
There
now.
you go. Yeah, it's a rugged toy. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was the Bald Dome. Thank you for that. That is always enjoyable to see what people do.
It was a good time. I mean, there were surprises, there were plot twists. It was. I mean, I was here for the whole ride.
So,
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what is next? You got the third sci-fi book coming out, correct?
Yes. So, A Turn in the Dark comes out in November. So that's what's next for me.
Okay.
What's your website, Hayley?
My website is HayleyReeseChow.com, where I try to post updates on my work. And
HayleyReeseChow.com?
Yes, sir.
Have you posted an update within the last 3 months?
Oh, these are like top tier level questions. I didn't know. I think I have.
Because I haven't done anything on my website since February. So,
I think I have. I think because I think someone actually told me the other day, they're like, dude, your work in progress list is not up to date. And I did go in and change it.
Changing a website is so much fun. I spent most of last weekend trying to update my website. So anybody who's watching us now, if you go to rosarabushy.com, please check it out and see if it works. If you are on a mobile device, let me know how that experience goes, because I think it is going to be a giant Charlie Foxtrot on a mobile, but give it a shot. See what happens.
Ooh, I'm gonna go look.
I finished that bottle of whiskey, and it was just a little too much for this show. But I'm pretty happy with it. So
it is called A Book and a Beverage. So you did your part.
I think solid life choices were made. I mean,
I keep thinking it's Friday, and I know it's not, which is not anyway.
Well, that's what
Thursday is all about.
Yeah, Thursday is all about forgetting that it's not Friday.
And tomorrow, Rose is going to be grumpy.
What's new? It's all good. All right, Tim. Thank you very much. Yay. So, what are you looking forward to in 2025? You've got an agent. Yay.
Yay.
What are they telling you? What are they going to do for you?
Well, so I have right now we have 3 books on sub with my agent. She's awesome. She's always in my court and always looking to support me in my work. So we have a young adult rom-com that's on sub. We have this is no judgment. There's a young adult horror that is also on sub, and then we also have a young adult cozy mystery that's on sub. So we got all kinds of things. My actually one of the authors that I co-author the mysteries with, we just finished up our second book, so we're hoping to revise that. And in 2025, the last 2 books in the Into the Churn series will also be released. So we got there's lots of things.
Busy year coming up. How was it doing a cozy mystery? I've had an idea for a cozy mystery. I've got about 20,000 words down on it, but how was it doing that? That's a kind of a fascinating genre, really.
Yes, it was definitely different because most of the stuff that I do is high stakes. People die. It's epic. There's lots of action and violence. And the cozy mystery, we kind of did like we actually we are marketed this one as kind of like Ghibli meets Wednesday with like a mystery, so like Addams Family and like a Ghibli aesthetic, almost in like an urban fantasy kind of mystery. But it's different because the stakes are lower, so you really have to lean into character, lean into the characters and even the place. I find in most cozy mysteries that you really have to make your setting super unique and kind of lovable, right? Because in cozy, people want to like get in there. I mean, we're here for the mystery, but we really want to live here and be with these people.
Right. So what's your setting?
Our setting, it's called Midnight Falls, takes place in a paranormal tourist town, and it essentially is a tourist location for spirits and people alike. And so the premise is that a girl moves into this town and is kind of trying to come to terms with this whole spirit thing, but when she finds out that her father was murdered and is kind of looking when she like her father that she never knew was murdered. And so she starts looking into that, and she gets dark visions when she interacts with a boy in the town. So he's also involved, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. But there are baked goods. We are in a bakery. We have a sentient B&B that is also like supportive, and we have a weird little hamster spirit that also helps out. So it's very cozy, even with the dark themes. It's a very interesting contrast that is fun.
That's great. So you're going to have people reading a book and wanting to eat croissants at 250 calories a pop, which is all bad carbs. Excellent. Yeah.
Sticky buns, maple sticky buns. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Me and my diet. Thank you so much for that. Excellent.
Random question for you. Did you ever read The Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking?
I love that book. I read it in January. It was amazing.
I read that book and I'm like, I don't want to admit I liked it, but
it's so good though.
Did that find a little part of your soul that isn't made of coal, Mike?
It is good.
Glad to know that exists.
It is T Kingfisher. That sent me on like a whole T Kingfisher. Like must have read like 7 or 8 of her books in a row. It was like, all right, and now we want more of this.
The only cozy mystery series I'm reading right now is Cleopatra Fox Mysteries by C.J. Archer. Oh. Those are really good. They take place in London at the turn of the 20th century, like, late 1800s for early 1900s. They're really, really good. And if you get the audio version, the narrator is just phenomenal.
Oh, that was like the secret word for me. I am such an audiobook person.
Yeah, you do you have any? Are any of your books on audio?
They are. Actually, all 3 main books in the Odril's Air series are on Audible, and we actually just signed with the audiobook narrator for the Into the Turn series, so that's coming soon.
Nice.
So where can people go to find your books?
My Odril's Air, they're pretty much anywhere online that books are sold. Amazon, BNN, Kobo, they're there. Audible for the audiobooks.
Okay. And from your website, are there links? I'm assuming there are links there.
There are links to Amazon. Yes. So I can't buy directly from my website. Oh, Whimsical Publishing, you can buy directly from their website. And they also have things like character art and other little swag things that are fun as well.
Okay, cool. Excellent.
So I have one last question for you. Great friend of the show, Laura Huey, told us that the one thing she thought after her first book, she said she really didn't think she did characters very well, the characterization. So she spent 6 months where she read nothing but romance novels, because if there's one thing romance novels know how to do, it's build the characters. And so I thought that I'm not going to read romance novels though. But anyway, do you have any advice like that for a little trick to make people, just that you do that makes your writing pop? Tell us your secrets.
Probably so I already talked about Save the Cat, which was a huge game changer for me. The other kind of epiphany that I had is harder to quantify, because when I say it, you're going to say, oh yeah, but like feeling it on a spiritual level. So I read this craft book, and I can't even remember what it's called now. But like the main thing that came out of it was, I had always been a plot-driven person. Like I don't reread books because I think, oh, I already know what happened. Which don't tell anybody I don't reread books. It's like my unpopular opinion is that I typically don't reread books because I want to know what happens. I'm interested in the story. I'm excited about the stakes. But then I'm really into K-drama. I love K-drama. And when I was kind of like on a binge when I was reading the story, and I really just realized that no matter what happens, like I need to love a character to care about what happens to them. And I don't think, and maybe love is the wrong word, maybe just appreciate or connect. And Save the Cat does talk about that. I mean, that's why it's called Save the Cat, is because they hypothesize, right, that you need to get, in order to get the sympathy for the reader and to the character needs to do something such as saving a cat. But I didn't really have that realization until I read that book. And I know some people start with characters. I always start with plot. However, it was really in that moment when I was like, I need to put more of myself into the characters and make them real. And almost to a vulnerable point. And that was the turning point for me, was that moment when I realized that my characters, my books essentially have to all be character driven in order to really connect with the reader.
Yeah, I always say you need both. You need to have interesting characters, but they have to be able to do something too. So it's kind of a false choice to say which one are you, because you kind of need both.
So I used to think that. And I still do to an extent. But if you've ever read, there's a book called A Gentleman in Moscow that kind of changed my mind.
Oh, that's a fantastic book. The Netflix series is actually quite good as well.
I haven't seen the Netflix series. Oh my gosh.
They did it really well. But the book is great. Yeah.
Yes. So The Gentleman is such a character-driven plot, and he is in the hotel
the entire time.
The entire time for like essentially his whole life. And I don't even care what happens to him. Like I want to know, because I am so invested in him. And I think K-dramas also do an amazing job of that, because their plot can go everywhere or it can be very finite, but it hinges on the fact that you are going to be invested in the characters. And I mean, honestly, that's what it comes down to, right? Because we come back to the great Star Wars. You know, it's like we can't even love Star Wars anymore, because like Han Solo isn't the same, because we want more Han Solo, right? We want more Luke exactly as he was in those original.
Luke was a punk ass.
Okay,
and I want to ride my tail, I shoot wombats and blah blah blah, and I can't lift it out of the swamp, Yoda.
But that's what people get mad about, I think, is in remakes and stuff, is that the character doesn't come off the same. Indiana Jones doesn't feel the same. Han Solo doesn't feel the same. So I mean, I think our love is for the characters in the end, is for Frodo and Sam and Aragorn. And I don't know. That was my epiphany.
And I think you're right, though. A Gentleman in Moscow is a great thing if you want to read a book that is character driven. I mean, there's a plot line obviously that's quite good that runs through it. But because of his situation, and for anybody who hasn't watched it or read it, it takes place during the Russian Revolution at the beginning of the 1900s, and he is an aristocrat. And because he has done something for the Bolsheviks, they decide not to kill him, but instead they basically imprison him in a hotel in Moscow, and he cannot leave the hotel. If he leaves, he will be arrested and killed. So, and he's very young. He's like in his 20s, I think, probably when it happens. So he spends his entire life in that hotel. And so it's just a continuation of characters, a revolving door of people who come in and out of his life. And it's exceptionally well done.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you, Mike. If you have a great plot and you have a great character, you have a bestseller. But I think you have to have, the character has to be there, like above all.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a Hayley opinion.
Yeah, there's any number of books. Well, I DNF a lot, but there's any number of books I'm like, I don't care. They can live, die. I don't care. There was one book I was reading when my company sent me to Germany on the way back. It was there's over 500 pages, and I'd read over 500 pages. There's like 30 pages left. It was a thriller. I'm like, so this is going to be the big reveal. And I was like, you know what? I don't even care. So I just threw it in the garbage can as I walked out of the airport. I don't know how it ended. Don't care.
You had 30 pages left and you didn't finish it?
I needed it to be on the plane to read, because this was before screens. no, this was
30 pages.
30 pages left. And I was like, nope, don't care. My flight has landed, and I threw it in the garbage can as I went to pick up my luggage.
There are a number of things wrong with that whole sentence.
Charm School was the name of it. I did not care. I was like, they can live, they can die. I don't care. I hope the plane crashes. And the good guy, the bad guy, everyone dies. So,
Yeah, it's interesting too, because when people describe a book to you, they'll describe the plot, right? They'll describe what happened. They won't be like, oh, but there's this, generally speaking. But in the end, once you're done reading a book, I think it's the characters that stick with you, that you hang on to.
Yeah. All right. Well, Hayley, thank you very much for wasting a very valuable hour of your time that you could be doing one of any of the 100 different things that you do. But we appreciate it. And on behalf of the people who are here, I'm going to say that they appreciate it because they have stayed with you the whole hour and 10 minutes. And please come back when you're getting ready to launch a book or any other time, and we'll be happy to have you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure, Mike and Ro. Really, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And for everybody else, please like and subscribe. We are still about 187 away from Mike getting a tattoo on his head if we can hit 500 before the end of the year. So, there's that.
And
that's pretty exciting.
Since you mentioned it, that is the tattoo.
Wow.
That I will get if we get to 500, but we won't. So, oh well.
The stakes are high.
Mike is a font of positive thinking. He's just willing that into existence. All right. And so we are back on Saturday at noon or just after noon, like 12:05, I think, officially, with speaking to someone from England. So,
the Alliance, yep.
Yep. Hang out with us then. And thanks for joining.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Now it's time to wave awkwardly.